Hi everybody, welcome to Stamping with Melva. I'm Melva Peters and I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator in British Columbia, Canada. Tonight I'm kind of switching it up. I usually in the past have been doing a mystery challenge in my Facebook group on Thursday nights, but I've decided that I'm going to alternate that. So every other Thursday night in my group, I will do a mystery challenge. But on the opposite Thursday nights, I'm going to do what I'm calling Technique Thursday. Doesn't really have a catchy name, but anyway, Technique Thursday, and I'm going to show you a different technique each Thursday starting tonight. So let me think. So tonight, the technique that I'm going to do is show you is masking, and a couple of different masking techniques. One is masking where you can stamp multiple times where it looks like the other stamps are, the images are behind or in front. So different, that kind of masking technique. And then the other technique that I'm going to show you is where you actually create a template or use one of the masks that Stampin' Up has to create a mask and do some sponging. Hey, Catherine. Hey, Crystal. Welcome. So a couple of techniques with masking tonight, and hopefully you'll find it interesting and something maybe you haven't played around with for a while. Hey, Joy. Because I really love to do this technique, particularly where you're doing the stamping and to make it look like one image is in front of the other. All right, let me switch over to my desktop and I will get started. There we go. All right, I'm using, I've got a glare, so I'm going to try and bring this in so there isn't a ton of glare, but of course that doesn't work very well. I'm using the Flowering Rainboots bundle, and really I'm focusing on the stamp set. But this is such a pretty bundle with these Rainboots, and then of course the tulips. I'm a sucker for tulips. Flower pot, and of course this great watering jug. And some really pretty sentiments. I love how it's always a mix of the block font and then the cursive font. So really pretty. Now, and it comes with a set of dies. And so, of course, you can cut out the boots and the pot and the watering jug. I'm really using this to cut out the image for the pot so that I can create a mask. And I'll show you how I did that. And then I'm using this really cool kind of, I don't know, lattice work, I'm going to call it. And I'm going to use that for sponging. So that's my reason for the dies that go with it. Hello, welcome. Oh my gosh, lots of them. Somebody from Smithers. Welcome from Smithers. Snowy Smithers. Yes, we finally are getting rid of our snow, but there's still snow in my yard. All right, I've got a piece of Highland Heather. Thought it was gorgeous grape. No, it's Highland Heather. So I've cut it 5.5 by 8.5. And I should bring in my trimmer to score it, but we'll give it a good fold. If I could find my bone folder, that would be a good thing. Tucked way back in. All right, give it a good crease with a bone folder. All right, and then I've got a piece of Daffodil Delight. Nothing so pretty as purple and yellow, very springy, kind of Eastery. This is cut. What did I cut this? Kind of a weird size. Here's my measurement. So this is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And then my piece of basic white that I'm going to stamp on is 3 3/4 by 5. I just wanted to give a little bit more of the Highland Heather showing, which is why I cut the a little bit different. And then the yellow, I'm just giving it a peekaboo of the yellow. And you're probably having a hard time seeing that even because it's so far away. All right, so the first technique that I'm going to show you is I have gone ahead and cut out, this is the lattice piece that gets cut out when you use that shape. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to position this across the middle of my basic white cardstock piece. And I'm going to just do a little bit of sponging And I've grabbed Gorgeous Grape instead of Highland Heather. See, I had Gorgeous Grape on my mind. All right, Highland Heather. And I've got one of my blending brushes. This is the one I've used with pink and red. But luckily the color doesn't transfer, so I'm all good. I really need to wash these out. So I'm just going to pick up. So this is the first masking technique. Just lay down. You can use one of the masks that Stampin' Up! Has. You can create your own mask with a shape from a die or a punched image. You see? And I'm just going to kind of push this along. Having a hard time here holding it in place there. I just need 2 fingers on this. I'm just kind of sponging this, and then I moved it. I really need to have something to hold it in place. But you can see what I'm doing is just kind of putting some color down and a pattern underneath this. Try not for it to shift. There we go. Probably a Post-it note. Actually, I have some Post-it note tape here. Let's do that. Hold it at least in place as I get the color laid down on it. Like that. There we go. Now I've got some hands to pick up some ink. A really dark spot there, but that's okay. You can put as much on or as little on as you want. I'm just holding this in place. This is kind of a small shape. If you use the decorative masks or the masks that Stampin' Up! Has, you will get they're easier to hold in place. So I can actually move this and create kind of a tiered pattern. Let's try that. It's definitely wanting to shift on me. It's one of the things you just definitely want to have it so it doesn't shift around on you. A bit of color there, and I'll pull this off. All right. So just adding a little bit of color underneath. I didn't really get anything on that one. Move this down. And do it again. There we go. All right, and then I can push it up top and repeat. Like that until you get as much or as little pattern as you want, as always. Okay, all right, so that you get the idea with that. So I've got a bit of a kind of a lattice texture on the front of my card. Now, what I'm going to do with these pots is I have gone ahead and cut out this is using the die, and I've gone ahead and cut out, this is a Post-it note, so I've got the sticky part of the Post-it note here. So I am going to just do some of these pots. So I'm not going to use that piece. I'm going to just use a plain piece like this. Okay, so I'm going to stick them. So the reason I've got the sticky tape down is I'm going to hold that in place. The sticky tape holds it in place. All right, so let's get my stamp. Oh, lots of people on tonight. That's great. Get my stamp out. So I'm going to stamp 3 pots, and I'm going to do them in purple just because. So what you're going to do is this will allow you to stamp. So if I stamp this one, and I'm going to overlap it slightly like, actually, let me do this one first. Sorry, I'm going to stamp one in the middle to start with. Let's get one in the middle first. So I've got one purple pot on there. It's cool, it's distinctive. And now I'm going to cover that up with this die cut. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stamp one that is just slightly behind it. So it looks like my stamp, my image is behind. And then I will change kind of where this goes. Oops, put that on there again. And I'm going to now stamp one here. So now I have 3 pots. And I'll lift this up. 3 pots stamped, and they look like they're slightly behind each other. So it's a really easy. You can use die cuts for this. You can just stamp your image if you wanted to on a piece of Post-it note and cut around it. Or if you have a punch, you can stamp it and then punch it out, or just punch it out. So there's lots of ways to make these masks from Post-it notes. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this. So there are some beautiful tulips. So I'm going to stamp let's see what I've got here. I'm going to stamp the leaves in Pear Pizzazz and the tulips in Daffodil Delight, because that feels kind of springy to me. So let's stamp the leaves. Now, what I probably want to do, let's see if I can do this. What I want to do is have let's do it this way. I want to have these come out of 2 of the pots, but not the third. So I'm going to just cover up that. I'm going to try and cover up that. I probably should have stamped that first. Let's do this. Cover that up. And that way, yes, that's what we're going to do. We're going to cover these 2 pots up. So let me cut out another piece of Post-it note, or actually I've got a piece of Post-it note tape. I'm just going to cover this up. What I don't want to have happen is this green to show. So I'm going to just cover this up so that when I stamp my flowers, the leaves, the stems, the stems aren't showing. So I'm going to stamp like that. And now when I pick up mine, it actually looks like they're coming out behind, but anyway, that's kind of the idea. Let's do that again. So we're going to stamp. I guess we can't do that. Okay, we'll just do it those ones. So by covering up your images, you can make it look like it's behind or in front. Now let's stamp the tulips. And these tulips are intended to line up with the stems, which is really great because you can then just stamp them like that. Isn't that pretty? Okay, now I want to put a sentiment on this. Let's put a sentiment. This doesn't have to be. So let's see. Live life. What does it say? Live life in full bloom. That seems like a good sentiment. So I'm just going to stamp this in the tuxedo black. Put this down here in the corner. Don't want to use that. I have to think about how I can use that. All right, so I have to cut this one because I used the piece that I was going to put in the middle. So let's see. I'm going to trim this to be. I'll trim an 1/8 of an inch off because my piece is too big for my Daffodil Delight now. And then let's trim this to be, I want this to be 5 inches, so we'll trim it. There we go. So my piece is now 3 3/4 by 5 inches and will fit onto my Daffodil Delight piece. Just add some liquid glue. Probably should have thought a little bit more about where I centered, how I centered my pots, but that's okay. It definitely needs some embellishment. But I think behind me I have, yes I do, I used these the other night. These are the brushed brass butterflies. So we will just add a couple of butterflies onto here, because these are just so cute. There we go. They come, let's see, 80 to a package of 2 different sizes. So there's 20 of each size. So they're really pretty. All right, so now I've got a piece of basic white. I will just turn this over. Oops, I could use that one for the inside of the card. I'll turn this over. But what I am going to do is this piece, just because I can't resist using this piece that I was using for the masking, I'm just going to take some of the liquid glue and just kind of put little bits on. Don't need a lot. And I always try to use my silicone mat when I'm putting the glue on, because I know it's gonna kind of splodge out. These are really thin little pieces. So by putting your silicone mat underneath, you won't get the glue all over your grid paper. There we go. So that can go on the inside. And I'll just use this for the inside of the card, which is here. A little bit smaller because this was cut 3 3/4. This was intended to be my card front, but it's okay. You don't have to have it always cut the same. So I try not to throw any of these pieces away that I've used for die cuts. So, you know, if you make a mistake or you change your mind on a die cut, don't throw those away. I just keep a little container of all of my die cuts, and that's what I will pick up and use often on a card if I can't think of anything else. All right, let me switch back over. Hopefully you got the idea of masking. It works really well when you've got a bunch. If you wanted to, the otters, I had thought I was going to use, hey Amy, welcome, the otters, and you could actually stamp the otters and then cut them out using your paper snips on Post-it notes. So you've got the sticky, and then use those. So you could get a bunch of otters all, you know, grouped together by stamping. So, you know, you put you stamp one, and then you put your Post-it note on that image, and then stamp behind it and in front of it. And you could get, you may have seen a couple of years ago, there was, maybe it was last year, there was the stamp set, The Gang's All Mere, and with all those meerkats. And somebody made a really cute card that just filled the whole front of the card up with meerkats. It was just so adorable. And that's what they did, is they stamped the image on a Post-it note and then used that to mask, so they could stamp all over and behind. And they might have needed a couple of them so that they didn't get the image. All right, everybody, I hope you enjoyed that. I will be live again on Saturday at 11. I hope you'll join me with a new project, and I will be using one of the new products from the new catalog. So I hope you'll join me. Thanks, everybody. Happy stamping.